Good evening, and welcome to the March 18th, 2026 special meeting of the Shrewsbury School Committee. We will be deliberating regarding the appointment of the next superintendent of schools this evening. The role of superintendent is one of tremendous responsibility and impact. Shrewsbury has been incredibly fortunate to have Dr. Sawyer serve in this role for 17 years. Our schools have benefited tremendously from his student-centered leadership, and the longevity of his tenure has brought incredible stability and success to our district. When Dr. Sawyer announced his retirement in October, the school committee began the search process for the next superintendent. Selecting the right leader is one of the most important responsibilities entrusted to the school committee, as this decision profoundly affects our students, staff, families, and community. The school committee was committed to conducting a search that reflects the values, priorities, and aspirations of the entire school community. To help direct our work, we developed a leadership profile to lead our search. We gathered input from families, educators, staff, and community members through a survey, and we gathered input from students through a focus group. This feedback helped shape the leadership profile that guided the search and ensured focus on the qualities most important to our district. The school committee created a superintendent search screening committee, which included 2 school committee members, parents of current elementary, middle, and high school students, educators, staff, and administrators. After a nationwide search was conducted with the assistance of a search consultant, the screening committee reviewed a strong pool of 30 candidates. Each applicant was evaluated against the criteria developed from community input, including student-centered vision and instructional leadership, financial leadership and fiscal stewardship, communication, listening, and trust building, community engagement, collaborative leadership, relationship management, and a clear dedication to supporting all students. The screening committee selected 9 candidates to interview. After 2 Saturdays of interviews and thoughtful deliberation, the Superintendent Search Screening Committee identified 4 finalists to move forward in the process. Todd Bidzidlo, current principal of Shrewsbury High School; Reuben Duncan, current superintendent of SAU 47, Jaffrey and Rindge, New Hampshire; Tiffany Ostrander, current principal of Calvin Coolidge Elementary School in Shrewsbury; and Dr. David Thompson, the current interim superintendent of Wilmington Public Schools in Wilmington, Massachusetts. The finalist candidates each spent a day in the district meeting with various stakeholders, touring our school buildings, interacting with staff and students throughout the day, and concluding their day with an interview by the school committee. These visits provided opportunities for staff, families, and community members to meet the finalists and offer feedback to the school committee. School committee members conducted site visits at the 4 finalist districts and communicated with the finalist references. The school committee reviewed all feedback provided through staff, student, family, and community responses to our survey forms. We would like to thank all who participated in this process: the members of the Superintendent Search Screening Committee, the students who met with the finalists, the educators who welcomed the candidates into their classrooms, the district leadership team, our union leaders, the town manager, educators, staff, families, and community members who attended meet and greets and provided thoughtful feedback after viewing the finalist interviews with the school committee. The input we received from across the community has been extremely valuable in guiding our work. We would also like to thank Mark Serra and Liz Poplowski of SMC for their assistance with helping with the taping of the school committee interviews with the finalists and the posting of these videos on the Shrewsbury Media Connection website and YouTube channels. We would also like to extend our thanks to Kelly Siddiqui, the Executive Director of Human Resources for the district, for her invaluable assistance with the search process. Before we move into deliberations, I would also like to extend our sincere thanks to the finalists. Participating in a process like this requires a significant commitment. We truly appreciate the thoughtful way each finalist engaged with our committee and the members of our community. and for your interest in serving our district. This is a challenging decision, and the members have carefully considered the candidate who will be the best fit for Shrewsbury's needs and our future. At this time, the school committee will move into deliberations. I'll invite committee members to share their reflections on the candidates and the search process before we entertain a motion to move into negotiations with our next superintendent. Mr. Velgapudi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to begin by thanking all the candidates who participated in this search and many members of our community who shared their perspectives throughout the process. The level of engagement from students, staff, parents, and community members speaks to how deeply we care about our schools. So as I thought about this decision, I kept returning to one central question: who is the leader best positioned to support our students, educators, and continued success of our district, from making it more transformational moving forward? So I got the opportunity to look at all the finalists and their presentations and their engagement with the community in the meet and greet and interview process one-on-one, and also with the leadership teams, their engagement with leadership teams. As Madam Chair mentioned, we have exceptional candidates, finalists, and then they all have the excellent skills to keep moving our district to the next level. Just to summarize what I have observed throughout this process, David Thompson, experienced superintendent with operational and crisis leadership experience. Ruben Junkin, systems leader with superintendent experience and strong operational leadership. Todd Bezillo, internal leader with deep community relationships and district knowledge. Tiffany Ostrander, institutional and student-centered leader focused on culture and student success. So going through several aspects and looking at my own observations and also feedback from the community, with either through directly reaching out to me, having one-on-one conversations with the community staff and several stakeholders within the community, and also the feedback that we received throughout this process. So I'm leaning towards who will be. All the candidates are very exceptionally great in keeping our district continue, where we are, and keeping it continue. But one thing I'm trying to see, which separates one another, is who will be a transformational leader, who not only continue what we have, but take it from here to the next level. The success what we have, keep the success happening, and then take it to the next level. I think throughout this process, Tiffany Ostrander consistently demonstrated that she will be the transformational leader with an approach to keep students center of every decision. She spoke about listening, collaborating, supporting educators in ways that ultimately strengthen opportunities for our students. That commitment came through clearly in both her experience and the way she engaged with members of our community. What impressed me most about Ms. Ostrander is her ability to connect vision with action. She understands that strong schools are built through relationship, trust, and shared commitment to student success. She brings a thoughtful, collaborative style of leadership and a clear focus on building on strengths that already exist within our district. Shrewsbury is fortunate to have such a strong schools and dedicated educators. I believe Tiffany Ostrander has the leadership, perspective, and commitment to students that will help us continue to grow while we preserve the excellence that defines this district. For those reasons, I'm proud to support Ms. Ostrander as the next superintendent of Shrewsbury Schools System.
Thank you. Ms. Sharif. Thank you.
I also want to thank our 4 candidates for coming and applying and being a part of this process as we hire the new superintendent. We had 4 qualified, capable candidates, and this is not how these processes always turn out. I believe all 4 would bring a different set of unique strengths to our district, and those strengths were on full display during their interviews with us, the school committee. It was on display during their full-day visits to Shrewsbury, meeting with our leadership, our buildings, our students, our staff, and our community. I also saw a different side to the candidates during visits to their own districts, meeting with their own communities and touring their buildings. I had many phone calls to do their references. I spent literal hours going through all of the feedback we received, including the feedback before the process even kicked off about what the community, including the school system and community as a whole, was looking for in a successful candidate to Shrewsbury. As I considered each candidate, I kept going back to the guiding light, our leadership profile, to sort of keep referring back to as I look through a student-centered vision, instructional leadership, the financial leadership and fiscal stewardship, communication, listening, trust building, collaborative leadership, relationship management, political awareness and community engagement, governance, transparency, ethics, management, delegation, and organizational capacity. That said, these are some of my thoughts on some of the candidates, or on all of the candidates. Reuben Duncan presented as a strong leader. He demonstrated that he is behind supporting students as they achieve their full potential. I appreciated his answers of personalizing learning, not necessarily individualizing, but personalizing. Recognizing we have a strong value in making sure students can reach their full potential and to thrive, and that might mean through CTE, college options, identifying needs and supports early, like in math and literacy, and putting the right systems in place. He had specific examples when it came to his own experience when he started in his current district at closing the achievement gaps, showing he really dug in on a personal level with math instruction at the high school level. I very much liked his answers on how to balance technology in a classroom. There were many reasons for technology and great tools, but there's a value in hands-on, the ability to make mistakes and erase those mistakes. I liked his shared decision-making model and his willingness to have conversations. I appreciate Reuben's belief in distributed leadership and the idea of co-creating systems and programs to meet the needs of all students, staff, and families too. As it relates to budget conversations with the school committee and what the goals are, what are untouchables, where can there be efficiencies, ensuring the budgeting process stays transparent. I actually appreciated how he has worked with parent and community groups to combat misinformation to work to get real information out. He's an active listener. I saw him doing just that in his conversations, and it is clear he is very hands-on. He seems to be an outside-the-box thinker, implementing new ideas after having conversations and getting a lay of the landscape of his own district. His experiences as a math educator, assistant principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent appear to have served the communities in which he is engaged in leadership capacities very well. I'll move on to Tiffany. Tiffany has a passion for what she does. She's a strong communicator. I do believe that what Tiffany says she's going to do, she's going to follow through with. I think she has a very driven personality that will not accept failure. A sort of, if you fall, you get right back up again. Tiffany's smart, well-prepared, knows our district well, and is passionate about her work. Her school has made tremendous progress and gains under her leadership and work. She understands our community and the expectation for a high-quality education for all students. She works tirelessly not only to continue good work, but to support improvement and growth. She has experience in Shrewsbury, so she knows our culture here and has worked well with the administration, teachers, students in union. She knows the challenges we will face in the near future, like an override and our high school renovation. I do feel that although Tiffany has been here and there may be a natural tendency to just go with the flow, I don't think she will shy away from new perspectives. She has drive and ambition. With regards to budget, budgets are not easy, and school budgets are even harder. Having a candidate with a strong financial background is important to me, and it takes a lot, but I do think that Tiffany asks the right questions and will be able to work collaboratively with the school committee and others in the district. Tiffany had a strong answer when it came to how you ensure all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, and academic ability, have equitable access to educational services, always looking at systems and structures. She credited Ms. Balsito to the co-teaching model, which keeps special ed students in the classrooms as much as possible while maintaining the services they need to support their learning. She also credited Ms. Manos on how to expand how this looks for multilingual learners, because there are other mandates in place, so students are in their classrooms but still receiving the language support they need to access instruction. She has worked towards making sure families who do not have proficiency have access to communications, written meetings, translator services through the PTO. The elementary schools have shifted curriculum nights to open house nights, making it more accessible for families to come and be a part of the culture. Tiffany is very data-driven. Quantitative data tells a story, but never the full story. She recognizes that the state measures us by numbers, and we do need to be mindful of that, but there are other things that matter. The qualitative data, asking students if they feel seen, valued, asking students to be a part of the process. Students are good about telling us what they need and what may or may not be working. Being able to engage with families and be on the same page, because there is a recognition that there may be things that happen at home that trickle into school, that unless a family tells us, we won't necessarily know. And making sure that teachers are a part of this dialogue. What is working, what supports they need, and what can we do and put that in place. She also had strong answers on technology, being able to keep in mind that paper and pencil, there is value to paper and pencil, but there's also value to using iPads and other technology to create opportunities that may not otherwise be available. I was impressed with her work on MSBA in another project that she's working on, and her ability to advocate for that project and be able to show what needs her community had. I found Tiffany to be enthusiastic, engaging, personal, and prepared. What's more, she was authentic and consistent throughout the process. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. Dave Thompson, he clearly has experience in leadership roles, having served as superintendent in 3 separate districts, an assistant superintendent, principal, and assistant principal. He would be able to hit the ground running on day one. He has experience with building and managing budgets, and he has the added benefit of being in districts that have had to advocate for an override and have also worked on projects with the MSBA, so there is a familiarity and comfort level of knowing how to navigate that process, which is important right now as we have Shrewsbury High School in the pipeline for that process. I appreciate his answers to when he interviewed with the school committee about closing achievement gaps, keeping families involved in the process. I also liked how he also included high achievers into this, how to stretch their abilities to keep them engaged. I like how he also spoke about having the focus to be on the individual student and the growth versus just looking at the number. Instead of saying you aren't yet a benchmark, looking at the student as a whole and focusing on what has worked well. We are all about data, and I always appreciate that, but I also believe that in the story and the student behind the number, and I thought that he touched nicely on that. I think he expanded on that a little more so when he was asked about data, when data contradicts initial assumptions about teaching and learning, when he brought up one of the schools in Norwood being low performing. It was not necessarily because of teaching, it was actually a high level of learning, but that 60% was English language learners. They had more barriers to overcome to be able to perform as well as their peers. He later looked at the top 20% of the graduating class, and 13% of that came from that particular school. Coming back to the budget, he has an understanding of how this works, and that generally speaking, about 80% of your budget is staffing. Starting at the buildings, he would start at the buildings, what do we have, what do we need, anything we are doing that is new, he needed to know 2 things. How does it align with the strategic plan, which was really important to me, and how does this impact good outcomes for our students? Being transparent in the process, and school budgets are more complex than home budgets. And he was also big on, especially with the override and the MSBA, being clear with the messaging. And then Todd Bezidlo. Todd is a strong leader at the high school. He spoke a lot about his superpower being communication. He has undeniable charisma, and he uses it well to connect with others. This quality is best seen at Shrewsbury High School as he connects with students. I was very impressed during his district visit when I went to his school with the panel of students I was able to speak with. They represented a nice cross-section of the student body: athletes, the arts, SAC, students who aren't involved in much, students who have had to visit the office more than they would want to admit to. The parent group was equally as enthusiastic about Todd and what he has done for the high school and what he means to the high school. It is also clear through speaking with various staff that he is very well respected. A prospective superintendent must be easy with people, confident when communicating, aware of the scope of the role, and willing to make personal sacrifices in order to serve the district well. Todd demonstrated those qualities well in his interviews. In terms of equitable access at the high school, how do we look at advanced coursework at the high school? When he first came to the high school, there were many classes where the prerequisites were a barrier to students enrolling in certain classes. He started to work on rolling back those barriers. The high school has certainly done a considerable amount of work to promote advanced coursework, not only promote it, but to have students score very well within those courses. Just last year, 91% of our students scored a 3 or above on AP tests. We've also expanded the world language program with our heritage program, the seal of biliteracy, and we're adding more courses next year, all under Todd's leadership. He's very knowledgeable when talking about how data contradicted his previous assumptions. He talked about MCAS data, sure that we had scored well, but when you drilled down the numbers, you could actually see where we needed to focus on, and he worked towards, his example was that we weren't doing as well as geometry, so how could they combat that? And they started, and they realized it was because they were running an integrated program. Some of what is taught is not seen until the MCAS time. So he sat down to figure out what you needed to do, and they started to implement some changes like MCAS questions, especially around geometry. And with teacher support, we saw increases in this area. In terms of technology in the classroom, he said not to underestimate the power of AI. Students are always 2 steps ahead of the adults. How do we combat this? More in-person writing assessments, reading quizzes, do you actually read? But we can't bury our heads in the sand to say there is not value in AI. Where and how do you use it? And he did reference our AI study committee that we had in the district last year. Todd is certainly committed to Shrewsbury, having served in the district for a significant length of time. Over the years, he has built strong relationships with the community, students, families, and staff. As the high school principal, he has collaborated with many district leaders, including assistant principals and directors, as well as colleagues across the district. During his tenure, Todd has worked with his leadership team and other district leaders to develop and bring forward several new programs, such as DECA, CTE, and the Capstone program. In terms of budget planning, he recognized that 86% of our budget is people. Finding out what the fixed costs are, where your contractual obligations are, what are our needs, having conversations to find that out, recognizing there's a lot of volatility to our budget as well, especially when you consider special ed and circuit breaker. Communicating about the budget, it's something as simple as having coffee with people, conversations, going to men clubs, writing in the incorrect information. We need to communicate in a way that people understand, and this is one of Todd's strengths. Todd has also done, being up at the high school, a fantastic job in terms of advocating for the high school expansion. Him and his team have certainly done a tremendous amount of work making sure that we're able to carry on the programming with as little impact to students as possible. And he would be an advocate for an override and certainly the SHS expansion. And I think something that was also is that Todd has a good way of communicating with people and being able to have people feel heard and calm temperatures down. All things considered, again, we had 4 very strong leaders. But I think that right now, again, going back to our guiding principles about what I think is strong for Shrewsbury right now, I am going to recommend Tiffany Ostrander for the next superintendent.
Mr. Linsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to everybody here in the room and we're watching on TV. First off, I'm thankful that this process has only happened once every 17 years in Shrewsbury. I know there are many districts out there that don't have that advantage. Certainly, many districts have gone through several in the last 17 years. So we're very fortunate to have had that sustained success, that long tenured, stable leadership in Shrewsbury. I'd also like to thank certainly the superintendent screening subcommittee and Chair Boucher, Ms. Fritz, Ms. Siddiqui, and everybody involved in coordinating the day in the district and the surveys and just so many ways that the community could engage with these four outstanding candidates. You know, it's a very important, difficult decision. It's even more difficult, you know, with the process the way it is. You know, you have to really kind of take in as much as you can. And obviously the big piece of it is a 90-minute interview, right? And then, as Chair Boucher acknowledged, certainly several opportunities to get to know the candidate outside of that interview as your work schedule will allow, right? Just want to make note of that because from my perspective, I was at the district in-district community forum before the interview. I was able to attend a few of the site visits locally. And then, of course, I read all the surveys and appreciate everybody that responded to the surveys and the community, the staff, students. I thought it was outstanding. When assessing the four candidates, I also found it very interesting. We've got two internal candidates that have strong knowledge, strong institutional knowledge of the district, and then two candidates that are external to the district that are doing the job that we're interviewing for, that we're assessing tonight. And as I kind of reflect, just kind of high level on, you know, what I took in over the last 2 or 3 weeks, it feels like a long time. You know, certainly starting with Reuben Duncan, you know, very strong, you know, leadership. He has, you know, really solid grounding with his community, building trust with families, with staff, and being that community voice in his district. In terms of, you know, like hands-on leadership and trying to foster development from within. I thought it was really good. Definitely a relationship builder. Certainly comes from a smaller district than Shrewsbury. You know, but he had worked in you know, a regional district that was close to the size of Shrewsbury. I obviously think a lot about budget operations of a much larger district when I consider the candidacy of Mr. Duncan. But I thought he showed, you know, the ability to collaborate in terms of his style, you know, cultured, focused, and relationship-oriented decision maker. So I appreciated his comments. I thought you know, he was you know, very strong. In terms of Ms. Ostrander, obviously, you know, we're familiar with her through Coolidge. I appreciated, you know, her student-centered leadership. I was actually able to attend, as Ms. Shrewsbury was, the site visit. Super impressed with the culture that she's brought to Coolidge. I think it was reflected in the students who spoke to us. You can imagine having, you know, elementary school students just kind of express, you know, their thoughts about, you know, being at Coolidge School, and it was really good. But I really felt, you know, that some of the quotes that stood out for me with her in particular was that every decision should start with what's best for students and student success. And I thought, you know, her focus around relationships and trust with families and staff were important, and that trust was built through the consistency and transparency within the culture that she builds. You know, I thought she displayed collaborative leadership. I know we talked to a lot of the parents on site who, you know, expressed their appreciation for her leadership back in August in particular, but I felt like in general that she definitely showed, you know, really strong leadership. And I think what stuck with me most is just the data-driven approach that she takes. We were able to sit in on, you know, her staff meetings, and the focus around performance I thought was really strong as well. And then, in terms of Mr. Thompson, interesting external candidate, has a lot of really similar experience around budget when it comes to overrides and certainly MSBA projects. I thought he had some really good insights around communication and keeping the community engaged around those initiatives and just the community in general. I liked, some of his responses around innovation and just kind of the collaborative approach that he takes within his district as well. I've got a lot of notes here, just trying to scramble through the other pieces of feedback that I had. For Mr. Thompson as well, or Dr. Thompson, I'm sorry, instructional leadership, a focus on curriculum, emphasis on educator support I thought was strong. Strategic alignment with the budget I thought was also really well responded to. So I thought there were a lot of similarities to what we had at Shrewsbury externally. And then Mr. Pizidlo, obviously, deep knowledge of the district's done some great work up at the high school. Certainly, as a parent, I had really 8 successful years up there with my students. Also another site visit I was able to attend. Certainly, parents very passionate about his leadership, as the staff was as well. So I was impressed with that. He demonstrates certainly an understanding of the district's strengths, community expectations, and I thought his communication was good as well. And I think I covered everything. I'm losing track of where I was. I think, the decision from my perspective, when I really thought about everything I took in around the surveys and the feedback from the parents, and then the responses, especially through the interviews that we conducted, really it's not about who has the most years of experience from my perspective. It's about who demonstrated the right kind of leadership in the right context. It's hard to kind of compile all my thoughts into each individual, but it's just kind of to give you some perspective on how I viewed it. It's the proven impact on students, staff, and culture, especially, I found was very important for me. It's about ultimately, it's about what the right fit is for Shrewsbury. It's about identifying that leader that'll bring that stability. Listen to perspectives across all key stakeholders, staff, students, families, the community at large. Somebody that will challenge the status quo. That's really what I was looking for in my assessment. And when I step back, again, it's not who had the longest resume. It's about who demonstrated the leadership that we need at this point in time, where we've been very fortunate to have had such a long tenured superintendent. We heard consistent evidence that Tiffany Ostrander can really focus on the accountability, the culture, and that data-driven approach. I feel that this district needs to continue that success that we've sustained for as long as we have over the last 17 years. So I think the data-driven focus around and the cultural focus vision from my perspective, along with the deep really knowledge of the district, positions Tiffany, Ms. Ostrander for success in this district.
Ms. Fritz?
First, I would also like to thank the candidates. It is not easy for them to participate in such a public hiring process that includes not only a significant amount of time and preparation by each of them, but it also includes public scrutiny in a variety of open session interviews and meetings. I also would like to thank our staff, parents, students, and our community members who took the opportunity to be part of the process. They provided us with valuable feedback, and I believe we ran a very inclusive process that allowed all interested parties the ability to see and hear from the candidates and evaluate their qualifications and ability to become the next superintendent of Shrewsbury Public Schools. I carefully listened to each candidate. I reviewed all of their application materials. I read each and every one of the survey question feedback forms that were provided to us. And some of them we didn't even receive until last evening. So this has been a very timely review. We have 4 candidates, 2 are experienced external superintendents, and we have 2 experienced district leaders. Mr. Reuben Duncan received a significant amount of positive feedback, including his wealth of experience in the role, his support of multi-tiered systems of support for students, including personalized learning, and his encouragement of professional learning communities. Feedback specifically mentioned his experience with middle and high school level education and bringing a new perspective to the district. Yesterday, I had the opportunity, along with Ms. Boucher, to visit the Jaffrey Range School District, and Mr. Duncan is beloved and well-respected leader. That was clear and consistent messaging from everyone that we spoke with. He was described as smart and active and thoughtful listener, student-centered, doing the work of multiple people due to budget reductions over the past years, caring, compassionate, and exemplary leader. While he may have mentioned this during one of his discussions while in the district for the day, I did not know about a process that he has implemented, the Learning Academy, which allows and empowers teachers who want to obtain their master's degree and have career advancement the opportunity to do so. And he partnered with Keene State, and professors come into the school district. Teachers are able to take courses toward their master's, and they're at no cost to them. Once they reach a certain amount of courses, they have to make the decision, are they going to go forward and finish? And that is when they may have some cost to them. But we were told, and quote, it has been life-changing for staff. And I was just so impressed, because I do not remember hearing that, and I think that was just an amazing, and it was such a genuine comments that we received from the 2 staff we spoke with. And I do know that Mr. Duncan is not familiar with the Massachusetts school budgeting process. It is very different from New Hampshire. And he would be moving from a much smaller and less diverse school district to a much larger and more diverse one, but he is definitely a solid candidate. Dr. David Thompson is also a sitting superintendent, and feedback we received highlighted his degree of experience as a superintendent, and again, as well as his experience at the middle and high school level. He has led various districts through strategic planning, budget challenges, and is very familiar with the MSBA school building process. During the interview process, I appreciated his interest in CTE and his questions about dual enrollment for high school students in order to provide them with more targeted educational services that aligns with their interests and current career opportunities that exist in today's job market. He talked about them also having the ability to save tuition dollars if they go on to college, because these courses will be able to them to take less college courses. And he also has a strong understanding of budget challenges, including Proposition 2.5 override requests, and working with town leadership and boards to resolve budget gaps. Feedback noted he has served in different districts, including as an interim superintendent, and this provides him with different perspectives. Some feedback stated that they did not feel they clearly understood why he feels Shrewsbury is special, or if this is a district where he wants to work for the long term. But again, he is a solid, experienced candidate. Ms. Ostrander was described in feedback as hardworking, kind, dedicated, data-driven, ambitious, and qualified for the role. Feedback was very favorable regarding her work ethic, being student-centered, and an effective and impactful leader, and her drive to move the district forward. She has a deep understanding and involvement with the MSBA process due to her work at advocacy on her school building committee in Hopkinton, but she does have limited budgeting experience, which is one of the key responsibilities for any school superintendent in an area where the next superintendent will need to be able to provide strong leadership. Feedback also included comments regarding her lack of teaching and leadership roles at the middle and high school level. While the principal of a school with a diverse population, it is a small community school, and she would become a superintendent of a very large school. However, she received extremely strong support from parents and staff. I have seen Ms. Ostrander grow in her role since she started in our district, and have been extremely impressed by her energy, her devotion to students, her capacity to continue to work very hard, including completing her coursework for her doctorate, as well as raising her family. Her actions and the quality of her work is indicative of her desire to work in Shrewsbury, regardless of the tasks put before her, and strive for continuous improvement. Ms. Ostrander is also a very strong candidate. Mr. Todd Basillo received feedback that he is a strong leader and has provided exceptional leadership during his tenure in the district. He is student-focused, approachable, calm, confident, and collaborative. He is student-centered, and decisions in collaboration with staff is focused on what is right for students in the district. He also knows when he has to remain firm in a decision, understanding that it may not be popular, but that is what is best for students. He will provide high school experience, which some have indicated is needed in central office. He remained poised, calm, and respectful during questioning that involved a confidential student issue during an open forum. The respondent felt Mr. Basillo's handling of the question was indicative of how he would conduct himself as superintendent, which involves high-pressure situations. Mr. Basillo also received feedback regarding his lack of experience as an assistant superintendent or superintendent and less teaching experience at the middle and elementary level. I have worked with Mr. Basillo during my tenure on the committee and have seen him lead a very large high school and manage many complex issues. He has successfully managed the overcrowding at Shrewsbury High School and has been creative in his approach, which meant that the overcrowding was managed until it reached a point where there was no further options, thus postponing the town's need to consider a major building project until absolutely necessary. He has served on several union negotiating teams and has provided excellent information and guidance. He supports staff, but would also provide feedback to help both sides better understand issues and concerns and work to reach a contract that supports staff as well as taxpayers. He has a strong understanding of our community, students, and the district's mission. He receives strong support from parents, staff, and students. Mr. Basillo is also a strong candidate. And I've done a lot of hiring in my professional life, and I was a member of the 2017 search process. And yes, John, we don't want to do it. We've had stability, and it's, I started on the committee on the hiring superintendent and in my last year. So it's like bookending hiring superintendents, but no, you don't want to do that. It's a lot of work. It's a hard decision. Excellent people put themselves forward in a very public way. So I think we want to make sure we have the right fit and somebody who will bring stability like we have had for the past 17 years. So for me, this has been a very difficult decision I've had to make in my work or even this role as a committee member. We have two extremely qualified candidates with superintendent level experience. However, while I do feel either could walk into the role and lead our district, I believe familiarity with our school district, its values and systems are key to moving us forward. We have two excellent internal candidates who bring a strong passion for education in Shrewsbury and have proven themselves to be leaders who have been instrumental in moving our district forward through COVID, complex issues and difficult situations. They've provided stability, and they continue to improve educational services for all students. Over the next 3 years, Shrewsbury Public Schools will need to continue to improve academic outcomes, hopefully pass a debt exclusion vote, and lead a major construction project for an addition to the high school. We'll likely need to have a successful Proposition 2.5 override vote to continue to remain financially stable and provide level services for municipal and educational services, despite the increased costs of doing business and inflationary pressures. I am extremely impressed by Mr. Basillo's and Ms. Ostrander's work and dedication to Shrewsbury Public Schools. I've personally witnessed the significant impact they have both made in the lives of students. I have struggled with this decision and have vacillated between the two candidates literally until today. Both bring strengths and areas of needs and opportunities for learning, but I believe either candidate would rise to the challenge and be what our district needs to continue to move forward. Data-driven decision-making is a strategic priority of the district and key to its ability to address strengths and opportunities and ensure that all students' needs are met in a manner that is cost-effective and efficient, as we must continue to focus on putting resources into the appropriate areas of need. Therefore, my choice for the next superintendent of Shrewsbury Public Schools is Ms. Ostrander, due to her experience and work that involves the use of data collection, analysis, and use to improve student performance in a manner that is targeted, cost-effective, and timely. While she will have a learning curve and will need to rely on the expertise and experience of the central office team, as well as the assistant superintendent of finance, I hope she'll take the initiative to begin to take courses and or seek mentorship in the area of school budgeting. I would also encourage her to seek to understand the feedback we received concerning what is perceived as a lack of high school level educational experience in central office. as it was a clear, consistent comment we received. It will be key to better understanding and collaborating with staff at the high school level. However, I'm confident she will rise to the challenge and will take whatever steps necessary to understand the role and successfully lead our district.
Thank you. My feedback on the candidates will be a little bit briefer. Dr. Dave Thompson brings a lot of experience to the table. I was impressed with Dr. Thompson's understanding of school finance, budgeting, and long-term financial planning. Dr. Thompson was the superintendent in Norwood when they passed a large override and also has experience with the MSBA process. After spending time in his current district, it was clear that he had a good relationship with the town manager and the finance committee. Reuben Duncan has significant experience in district-level leadership. He is committed to collaborative and distributive leadership. He is genuine, thoughtful, and reflective. And after spending time in his district, it was obvious that he was a visible and accessible superintendent. Todd Bidzidlo has been a very successful high school principal, and he does a great job connecting with students. He has a great understanding of our district. He's committed to student success, and he has been a great advocate for the Shrewsbury High School expansion project. He has done a lot of great work around expanding CTE and career pathways at Shrewsbury High School while navigating both space and financial constraints, and he has very strong communication skills. Tiffany Ostrander's passion and excitement for becoming the next superintendent of schools is evident. Her level of preparation during the process was impressive. She is deeply rooted in the values of Shrewsbury Public Schools and has deep institutional knowledge. She has great communication skills. She's approachable and authentic. Her work on her doctoral degree, which is expected to be received this spring, is a real plus for our district as it focuses on advancing equity through organizational learning and data-informed decision-making. And I also support Ms. Ostrander as the next superintendent of schools. Thank you for the discussion and reflection from committee members. If there are no further comments, I will now entertain a motion regarding the appointment of the next superintendent. May I have a motion to enter into contract negotiations with Tiffany Ostrander for the position of superintendent of Shrewsbury Public Schools?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote. Ms. Fritz?
Aye.
Mr. Wensky?
Aye.
Ms. Sharifapour?
Aye.
Mr. Villagapudi?
Aye.
Myself, aye. We will now take a recess. Thank you. We'll say that. The motion carries, and we will now take a recess. Thank you. During the recess, I had the opportunity to speak with Ms. Ostrander, and she's extremely excited about the opportunity. She was very glad we saw her vision, and she is very, very excited about the opportunity. So we will be entering into next steps with her. We do need to go into executive session this evening. So for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of or any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, Purpose 7, Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 22F and G, for the purpose of reviewing, approving, and/or releasing executive session minutes. B, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Purpose 3, the Shrewsbury Education Association Units A and/or B, the Shrewsbury Paraprofessional Association and/or the Cafeteria Workers Association. C, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, non-union clerical and support staff and/or administrators, including the position of superintendent. Purpose 2. D, for the purpose of addressing General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements, federal and Massachusetts student record laws. Purpose 7. E, for the purpose of General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Open meeting law complaint. Purpose 1. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
A roll call vote. Ms. Fritz?
Aye.
Mr. Wensky?
Aye.
Ms. Sharifapour?
Aye.
Mr. Belagapudi?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you and good night.